Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine walking into a dense jungle, the air heavy with humidity, cicadas buzzing like invisible engines. The ground beneath your feet is uneven roots, moss, ancient stones swallowed by the earth. Suddenly, through the foliage it appears. A pyramid rising above the treetops, its limestone sides glinting in shafts of sunlight. This is no ordinary ruin. It is a voice from another world. The Maya civilization thrived for nearly 2,000 years in what is now Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras. They built cities as large as medieval Paris, devised calendars more accurate than the ones used in Europe at the time, and erected monuments aligned with stars and planets. But their greatest achievement was not only architectural, it was organizational. Because here's the puzzle. How did a people with no wheels, no steel, and no beasts of burden build such colossal, precise, and meaningful cities, without collapsing under their own weight? That mystery still baffles modern engineers. Picture yourself walking across the ancient city of Chichen Itza. The jungle hums with insects, the air is thick and heavy, and suddenly you find yourself standing before the temple of Kukulkan. It rises like a staircase to the heavens, each stone block perfectly fitted into place. A local guide tells you to try something. You clap your hands once sharply. What comes back is not a simple echo. It's a chirp, a sound that resembles the call of the sacred Quetzal bird. It is as if the pyramid itself is alive, responding to you, echoing a voice from the past. For decades, visitors thought this was coincidence. But then, modern acoustic engineers arrived with microphones, spectrum analyzers, and computer models. What they found stunned them. The pyramid's very geometry had been designed to shape sound waves with mathematical precision. The Maya had tuned their architecture like a vast musical instrument. And that is only the beginning. We like to think of ourselves as the most advanced builders in history. We raise skyscrapers higher than clouds, we dig tunnels under oceans, and we build machines that reach into space. But here is the uncomfortable truth. We also fail, often spectacularly. The Berlin-Brandenburg Airport opened 10 years late, billions over budget. The Boston Big Dig Highway project dragged on for decades. Even the Sydney Opera House, one of the modern world's architectural icons, almost bankrupted Australia in the process. Now compare this with the Maya. Without steel, without wheels, without modern machinery, they built dozens of cities, each containing pyramids the size of skyscrapers, reservoirs large enough to sustain 100,000 people, and ceremonial complexes aligned so precisely with the stars that they still function as observatories today. And they did this without written blueprints, without emails, without computers. How? The answer, archaeologists now believe, lies in something we have almost forgotten: the power of ritual as technology. At the dawn of the 20th century, archaeologist Edward Thompson dredged the sacred cenote of Chichen Itza. From the depths he pulled gold discs, jade beads, incense, and the bones of more than 100 men and women. For decades, historians assumed these offerings were random sacrifices. But when modern scientists use radiocarbon dating and stratigraphy, a different pattern emerged. Each offering had been placed exactly in alignment with construction phases of nearby temples. In other words, the Maya used ritual as a scheduling system. Think of how we use project management software today, programs like Primavera, Jira, or Microsoft Project. They divide time into phases, assign resources, and mark milestones. The Maya did the same, but their software was the ceremonial calendar, carved in stone and sung in ritual. By embedding construction tasks into religious obligation, they solved one of history's greatest problems: how to coordinate tens of thousands of people across multiple decades without rebellion, confusion, or collapse. The ceremonies were not decoration. They were the operating system of Maya civilization. Fast forward to 1952. Archaeologist Alberto Ruz Luillier descends into the Temple of the Inscriptions in Palenque. After days of chiseling through a sealed stone slab, he steps into a chamber unseen for 1,200 years. There, at the center, lies the sarcophagus of Lord Pakal. Massive, intricately carved, it depicts Pakal journeying through the vision serpent, a cosmic gateway between worlds. But the wonder was not only artistic. Scientists later realized the sarcophagus lay at the mathematical heart of the temple. Every object surrounding it, jade ornaments, obsidian blades, shells, was placed with precision according to astronomical alignments. The entire temple functioned as a three-dimensional construction manual, guiding builders through decades of work using the stars as reference points. To bury one man, the Maya planned for decades. To build his temple, they aligned stone with Venus cycles and solar zeniths that would occur long after Pakal's death. This was not architecture. It was cosmology written in stone. Now let's return to Chichen Itza, but this time to the Great Ball Court, the largest ever built. Archaeologists once thought this was just a place to play the Mesoamerican ball game. But measurements revealed something extraordinary. The court's dimensions, 146 meters long by 36 meters wide, correspond not to the needs of sport but to the orbital cycle of Venus. Once again, astronomy was encoded into architecture. But the real marvel was acoustic. Stand at one end and whisper, the sound carries clearly to the other side. Clap your hands, and the echo produces harmonic frequencies as though the walls themselves are instruments. Modern sound engineers modeled it on computers and discovered that the walls act like a giant amplifier, filtering background noise while enhancing the human voice. The Maya had, in essence, built the largest open-air theater of the ancient world. And here's the remarkable twist. Beneath the central playing area, archaeologists uncovered dedication deposits, jade balls, obsidian knives, even bodies of individuals dressed as ballplayers, arranged to mirror stories from Maya mythology. The ball court wasn't just a stage. It was both a cosmic calculator and a public performance of engineering mastery. When rulers could make stone speak, their authority became unquestionable. The Maya lived in one of the most challenging environments imaginable. The Yucatan Peninsula has no rivers. Rainfall is seasonal, unpredictable, and often violent. Yet cities like Tikal, with populations over 100,000, thrived here for centuries. Their secret? Turning water management into sacred performance. Archaeologists using ground-penetrating radar have discovered vast networks of channels, aqueducts, and reservoirs integrated into temples. These weren't just functional, they were theatrical. In Tikal, rainwater was deliberately directed through sacred courtyards before being stored in reservoirs. The act of collection became a ceremony. In Palenque, aqueducts were engineered to produce sound effects, rushing water beneath palace floors that created a constant, awe-inspiring roar. This was sustainable engineering disguised as religion. By embedding infrastructure into sacred ritual, the Maya created systems that both solved practical problems and inspired loyalty. Modern architects studying green cities are only now rediscovering this principle. That infrastructure works best when it carries meaning, not just utility. When we think of technology, we imagine silicon chips, algorithms, and machines. But for the Maya, technology was not separate from ritual. It was ritual. Every major construction project began not with blueprints but with the calendar. The Maya sacred calendar, the Tzolk'in, mapped out 260 days, each with its own divine significance. Combined with the 365-day solar year, they produced a 52-year calendar round, the framework of all human activity. So when did you quarry stone? When did you haul blocks through dense jungle? When did you gather thousands of workers from neighboring villages? All of this was decided not by a committee of engineers, but by the priests of time. To modernize, this seems irrational. Yet it worked. By tying construction deadlines to sacred cycles, the Maya created what we might call cosmic project management. Workers believed that moving a stone on the wrong day could anger the gods and doom the city. So they didn't argue with the schedule. They followed it with devotion, precision, and discipline. Imagine an airport today delayed for 10 years because of budget disputes. Now imagine the Maya, mobilizing tens of thousands of people with no wages, no union strikes, and no bureaucratic paperwork, simply because the stars said it was time to build. In its own way, this was a technology more powerful than payroll systems or management software. It turned faith into fuel. Walk into the Temple of Inscriptions at Palenque, where the tomb of Lord Pacal lies hidden deep inside. As you descend the steep staircase, torches flicker against massive carved slabs. Pacal's sarcophagus lid is a masterpiece of cosmic symbolism. The king is shown falling into the jaws of the underworld, yet rising simultaneously along the axis of the world tree. But here is the astonishing part. The temple itself is not just a burial chamber. It is an astronomical instrument. When archaeologists aligned its axis with the horizon, they realized it tracked the path of the sun at solstices. On specific days, light entered through narrow openings and illuminated glyphs that spoke of rebirth and cosmic order. In other words, the temple did not merely house Pacal's remains. It transformed his death into a recurring cosmic event, renewed year after year by sunlight itself. This integration of architecture and astronomy was no accident. At Caracol in Belize, at Tikal in Guatemala, and at Copan in Honduras, similar alignments appear. Temples were positioned to mark Venus rising as the morning star or setting as the evening star, crucial omens for war and peace. For the Maya, buildings were not passive. They were machines that synchronized human life with the cosmos. The city itself became a clock, a calendar, a stage on which the heavens performed. If the sky gave the Maya their calendars, the earth demanded solutions. The Yucatan Peninsula has almost no rivers. Its lifeblood flows underground, in hidden limestone caverns. To survive, Maya engineers had to master the art of water management. At Tikal, they carved vast reservoirs capable of sustaining tens of thousands of people during the dry season. At Uxmal, they built elaborate cisterns, sealed with a special lime plaster so durable that some still hold water today. In Palenque, they engineered aqueducts that channeled mountain streams directly into the city. But again, this was not just plumbing. It was sacred. Every drop of water was associated with the rain god Chak. Reservoirs were not only storage tanks but ritual spaces where offerings were made. Water engineering doubled as theology, ensuring that people treated their lifelines with reverence. Modern cities often struggle with sustainability. Reservoirs dry, aquifers collapse, pipelines leak. The Maya remind us that infrastructure can be sacred, not just technical. By embedding water into their spiritual system, they guaranteed respect for the very thing that kept them alive. Now let's pause and consider the sheer scale of Maya achievement. Tikal alone had more than 100,000 inhabitants at its peak, comparable to medieval London. Its temples soared over 60 meters, built entirely by human labor, without metal tools, wheels, or beasts of burden. How do you organize such a workforce? How do you feed them, motivate them, prevent chaos? The Maya answer was brilliant. You make every stone sacred. A block of limestone was not just a rock. It was part of the cosmic order. Carrying it was a prayer. Placing it was a ritual act. Finishing a temple was nothing less than ensuring the balance of the universe. This transformed labor into devotion. Modern construction often faces strikes and shortages because workers are alienated from the project's meaning. The Maya, by contrast, wove meaning into every task. They created what we might call spiritual logistics, a system that motivated people not with money but with transcendence. And it worked for centuries. It is dawn in the city of Tikal. Mist curls between towering temples, parrots scream overhead, and thousands of people gather in the great plaza. The air smells of incense, sharp and sweet. On the steps of Temple I, a priest in brilliant feathered headdress raises his arms. Behind him, drums thunder like the heartbeat of the earth. Then silence. From the top platform, he blows a conch shell. The sound is long, deep, and it rolls across the jungle like the voice of a god. The people kneel. The king steps forward. But here's the miracle. This entire ritual is engineered into the city itself. The plaza is not just an open space. It is a giant acoustic amplifier. Clap your hands at one end, and the echo bounces back like the cry of a quetzal bird. Speak from the temple stairs, and 10,000 people hear you without a single loudspeaker. Archaeologists call this accidental acoustics. But was it? Or did Maya architects understand sound as well as stone? Stand there today, clap once, and you'll hear it. The bird call echo, crisp and uncanny. It is as if the builders encoded nature's own voice into their plazas, ensuring that rituals could be heard by all, binding community through sound. Technology and spirituality again as one. But what happens when the system grows too vast? By the 8th and 9th centuries, the great cities of the Maya stretched the land to its limits. More temples meant more stone. More people meant more maize. Forests thinned, reservoirs strained, and the balance that once felt eternal began to tremble. Imagine a dry season that lasts too long. Reservoirs shrink. Crops wither. Priests promise that the next ritual, the next sacrifice will bring rain. But the sky stays empty. The drums echo but no storm follows. For a people who believed the cosmos and society were one, drought was not just a natural disaster. It was a cosmic betrayal. Some cities turned inward, doubling down on ritual. Others turned outward to war. Monuments show kings boasting of battles, sacrifices, captives taken, as though more blood might buy back the rain. But the heavens remained silent. By the 10th century, the great plazas stood quieter. Temples still rose, but fewer. The jungle began to creep back, roots breaking stone, vines curling around stairways. The cosmic machine slowed, then faltered. The Maya world had not vanished. Millions still lived across the region. But the great urban experiment collapsed, leaving behind cities swallowed by green silence. Centuries later, Spanish conquistadors stumbled upon Maya towns and villages, dismissing them as primitive. They could not imagine that the jungle concealed cities greater than anything Europe had built in the Middle Ages. The stone temples slumbered beneath roots and moss, waiting. And then, in the 20th and 21st centuries, came the rebirth. Not by priests but by science. LiDAR, light detection and ranging, is a technology that scans landscapes with laser pulses, stripping away vegetation. In Guatemala, Mexico, Belize, and Honduras, LiDAR revealed what machetes and digging could not: entire hidden metropolises. In 2018, a single scan of northern Guatemala uncovered over 60,000 unknown Maya structures. Palaces, fortresses, roads, causeways, even massive defensive walls. It was as though the jungle itself had been peeled away, revealing a forgotten network of cities interconnected like stars in a constellation. Suddenly we saw the truth. The Maya were not just isolated city-states. They were a civilization of millions bound by roads and rivers trading salt, obsidian, cacao, jade. They had created one of the most sophisticated societies in human history, and we were only now beginning to see it. What then do we learn from the Maya? First, that technology is not only machines. It is also calendars, rituals, symbols, and beliefs that mobilize societies. The Maya remind us that the deepest technologies are cultural, ways of organizing time, space, and meaning. Second, that even the greatest systems can falter if balance is broken. The Maya built reservoirs, forests, and rituals to sustain life. But when demand outpaced supply, collapse followed. This is a warning modern civilization cannot ignore. And finally, the Maya teach us that genius can be hidden in plain sight. For centuries, we thought the jungle was empty. In reality, it concealed one of humanity's grandest experiments. Cities as cosmic engines, temples as calendars, plazas as amplifiers of sound and spirit. The jungle kept their secret. But now, with fire, light, and science, we are listening again. The Maya are still here. Their languages are spoken by millions. Their rituals endure. And their genius, mathematical, architectural, spiritual, whispers through the stones. The question is not whether the Maya are gone. The question is, will we listen before our own world repeats their fate?